Assalamu alaikum.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, सब कैसे हैं?
वालेकुम अस्सलाम, all good, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
और अरसलान भाई आते होंगे, वो इस वक्त वो पर्थ से हैं, तो पर्थ में मगरिब की अजान का
People seems to be on mute at the moment, I think.
अरसलान भाई हैं आपके सामने।
अच्छा।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम everyone.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
Walaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam.
Let's wait for a few more minutes to see if everyone else also joins. We are expecting around 11, 12 participants. So let's wait for a few minutes. Maybe we should start at 6:05, just 5 minutes, then we'll start. Assalamu alaikum, Arslan bhai.
Walaikum salam.
Arslan bhai is a very experienced project management professional, and he will be conducting this session today. I'll hand it over to Arslan bhai. Or before that, I think it's better if we all just go through one by one and give our introduction. So that would be better and easier. So I'll start with myself. My name is Raj, mechanical engineer for the batch 97-98. Currently, I'm in Phoenix and working as a project manager for the listing company, Sarins, Australia. So that is
There's a lot of background noise.
Guys, just a suggestion that if you can open your camera, that's the first thing. And the other thing is that if you like to speak, just unmute that one. Otherwise, you can mute yourself.
I think yes, that's probably the reason that someone's mic is making this background noise. So if you want to speak, then please turn off your mute.
That seems a little bit better now. All good, guys. Let's start rather than moving further, because I haven't prayed the Maghrib as of now. So once I finish the whole a discussion with you guys, having a complete presentation, then I'll go for my my Maghrib. So I do not waste anybody's time also. Salman, do you want to start that one with your introduction, and we will go further down? Salman Faiz?
Yep. Okay. You want me to give my introduction? All right. I think most of the Salman Faiz, batch 2004-2005, industrial manufacturing from Kennedy University. Currently residing in Melbourne, been in Australia for 12 years. And my specialty is mechanical design in team lead. Currently working on the Melbourne Metro Underground Rail Tunnel project.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
I think Minaj Bhai is given. Muhammad Farooq could be the next one.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Muhammad Farooq, badge mechanical engineer, badge 2006-2007. Currently residing in Perth, working for an oil and gas services company called Animec as a project engineer.
Sure. Nirmal Ijaz?
Yeah. I think, Namra, you will have to unmute yourself.
Mute, and so we go to Ria. Or Raya, yeah.
Raya, yes. I am Raya Hashmi, 2005-2008 electronics engineering batch. I've been in Sydney for 3 years and I work for Sydney Trains as a planning project engineer, project planning.
Okay.
Next, Imran.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Imran Khan. I am from batch 9495. I work for Telstra as a project manager for the last 10 years. And the reason for me to join this session is to refresh myself and learn from the knowledge which is going to be provided on this session. So thank you.
Inshallah. All right, guys, let's start that one. If anybody left, like I say, you can just introduce yourself, otherwise I'll start that.
I think we've got Namra Ijaz is left. Muhammad Farooq is done. Yeah.
Musa, please.
Maybe I think we can.
Oh, we can just
We can.
start that. Yeah. So, all right, I'll share the screen. Minhaj, I'm having the issue, like I was saying, that when the host disabled the attendee screen sharing. So,
Sorry, you saying something?
I'll try to share the screen, but it says that when host disabled the attendee screen sharing.
Try it now. You should be able to do it.
Okay, let me try that again. Yep, there you go.
Namra, there is a lot of background noise from your end. I think I'm not sure.
Okay, sir. Sorry. Okay. Is it better now?
Yep, it's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
It seems that noise was coming like a Jurassic Park film.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
All right, guys. Just quick introduction so that we can cover all the slides. Arsalan Usmani, I've been working there for the last 24 years in project management, planning, scheduling, risk management, cost management side. And like his current role is senior project control specialist on B Mechanical 91 batch. And first postgraduate was in asset management. The next one was in oil and gas engineering. I had deferred my PhD from Curtin in risk management, but again, due to flying cloud jobs. So, but I've been having the membership with the Australian Institute of Management and with some of the other organizations. So that's the background. Quickly goes to the next one. The way I'm going to cover that one, the whole thing, is we have the project management definition. Like I just have an introduction to it. So as I said, and one of the participants will also have said the same thing, that it might be a refresher for some of those. So I will cover the definition, the project management scope. When you're going for any of the new project, whether it's a small size project, medium, or the large one, how you're going to define the scope for any of the job. The most important aspect of any of the projects is the time, quality, and cost. That triangle is the most important one. We all the time take care of it, focus on that one, being the project manager, being the project engineer, and even if you are a site engineer, you're involved in that. The next one is the human resource. So I just based again on the human resource side of it. Human resource is the one of the aspect or the facet in which you will be touch base in terms of resources you are having that one, in terms of material you are having that one, or you have the subcontractor, you having the supplier, or even the vendor also. Information management, we are all in the age, so especially you guys. So the information management is again covering not only from the email point of view, but also the data which we are sharing. So the raw data which the companies are generating, how we are going to benchmark that, how we are going to use that data, that raw data in terms of decision making, that sort of area that I will be covering. Lastly, it will be the risk management. Risk management, basically I will be covering in terms of risk register, how you're going to conduct that one, any of the risk workshop. In the risk workshop, when you're dealing that one with the risk, how you relate that one in the project, and how the project is being like us quantifying that one in terms of any of the risk, which is top 5 or top 10, again, depending on the project to project. I might be a bit faster, so you guys can just take a note. Like if you want to ask something towards the end, we will go for the question answers. So we'll do it there. And if you want to stop me, just ask me then and there, so that I'll be a bit of slow down, because that's my pace. But hopefully you will catch up with that. On the definition point of view, is not a big deal. Temporary, any of the project which is having the start end, okay, and when you are finishing that project in a certain time period, that's the total like a definition, like in a very simple term. Whenever you are starting any of the project, when you're building the roads, you're building the bridge, you're doing that one, any of the metro project, it's if whenever you are having a scope of work which is having the start date and you having a finish date of it. I'm not talking about any of the extension of time, the scope of work increases or anything like that, okay. It's just the position itself I was talking about. It's done by the people, likewise with you will be using the material for it, you will be using the manpower for it, and then you require the information to execute that one. You need the process, you need that one, a system. Sometimes you need to define the system, sometimes the system is already being defined, so you need to develop the new process for any of the greenfield projects. So greenfield projects, if some of you are aware, these greenfield projects are the one which are relevant. It's a new project, okay. You are doing that one just from the scratch, and then you are having a grassroots project also, or in the same location where your brownfield project or the existing equipments are, or existing plant is, you are doing another project next to it and on top of the existing assets also. So that's a greenfield one. So the diagram which I'm showing that one here, like I'm not going to go into the detail of these diagrams, but again, any of the project, start that one with the concept. So you define that one, what exactly is the project itself. Then you further detail that project out, or that definition, into the definition stage, okay. And then once the definition stage is being defined, you go into the next step, which is the development stage. You have the different gates, so every organization works differently. A gate is a process area in which once you have completed all your checks, checks are all ticked out, then you move to the next stage. So that's what you call that one as one of the gate. And every project manager or every project engineer need to cross that gate to move from one stage to the next stage. So for a simple project, you are starting that one with the concept select stage. You go for your definition stage. You go that one for your detail design. You go that one for your engineering further detail out. Then you go for your execution part. Then you go for your pre-commissioning if you have that one. Then you commissioning. Then you have your startup, and you hand over that one to your operations. So I'll put few of the examples, and I'll definitely share this towards the end with you guys. The slides you can have further read out on that one. Number of projects you guys all are involved with, but again, as you can see that one, I've been working that one previously in the water industry. I've been working that one predominantly in oil and gas, subsea, offshore, onshore, LNG, floating LNG. So quite a number of places, infrastructure I worked on. So what really happened is that any of the project which you are involved in, sometimes you involve that one just from the scratch. So you are at that concept stage where you are selecting number of concepts to define that one. And so, for example, you define that one with 20 of the concepts. You narrow that one based on the feasibility study, based on the definition you are going to define that one. Or sometimes you have a criteria coming out from the client that this is they want it, but you give them the different scenarios in which you further go for further feasibility study on that, and then from the feasibility study you define that what will be the right project outcome for to execute. Feature wise, that's quite unique, because the thing is that any of the project is for a certain period of time. As we define that one in the definition stage, is having the start date and the finish date. So any of the project which we start, that one is having a certain time period, certain resources to be used. Either you are going to, okay, that's the definition of the project. If you have multiple projects and you roll that one up into one group, that's called program. If you roll that one further up, that's called your portfolio. Okay, so that's how the whole overall hierarchy looks like. And for any of the project team, they all come together for a certain period of time, either starting that one with the project managers, with the design managers, especially with the commercial managers. They are the one who usually start the project, and then it goes back to further detail out exactly what sort of resources you will be requiring that one down the line. And then it goes with the ramping up, and then you have this slightly a plateau, and then you ramp down. Okay, so that's how the resource curve usually works, and that's the life of the project itself also. So when you're executing that one, it's a slow pace, and the cost sometimes is being uploaded at front. So all the resources are uploaded front. You have the backloaded of the project. Sorry, for the project also, because for the shutdown itself, although it's a shutdown, but sometimes you are taking that one as a project itself. So that one is backloaded, or the resources are required towards the end, where you're having the main shutdown window itself. So for the shutdown itself, you are having the pre-shutdown window, you have the shutdown, and the post-shutdown window. So when you are having a multiple, so there are two scenarios in which you have a same team executing multiple projects, or you are having or just opposite of it. Okay, so you have that one, a same team which is having a project which is run that one in phases. So you have the phase one, for example, take the example for Gorgon, which executed that one by Chevron and the airlines. So in that one, you have the Gorgon stage one is a complete set of project. Okay, and then you have the phase two of it. Not necessarily the same team will be executing the same phase, or sometimes, for example, for Wheatstone, that's another project which was run here in WA. And for Metronet also, for example, Metronet is here also. And Melbourne wise, we have, so I was working previously for Langaroo, and we have some of the train projects. So individual items are defined. So one of the battery limits, you define that this project is based on one of the areas. So when you are removing some of the rail lines, or you're executing that one with the new train stations for it, that becomes independently a complete project itself. But when you are connecting that one, these are the connection of the different projects in itself, which is executed by the same team. Unique results, as I said, the main idea is that one, that whenever you are executing a project, every project is different. Although you are doing that one phase two of Gorgon, which I gave you the example, you are doing the same set of wellheads, you are using the same equipment, you will be installed subsea, you will be using that one for the offshore platform, almost the same sort of equipment, more or less. Okay, and the subsea pipeline also, but again, the philosophy might be different. So based on that one, the distance might be different, you are having a different composition which is coming out from the ground. All these measurements and parameters you need to keep in mind whenever you are executing any of the new projects. So that's all unique about any of the project. Progressive elaboration. I'll link that one with my previous slide. What exactly is that whenever you are executing any of the project, it further expands out. Okay, so when you define the project at the top, it further goes into the stages in which you understand the scope of work more when you are working on it. Okay, so whenever you, being the company or being the contractor, you accept the job, you have a very limited information from the client that this is what they want and how you're going to execute it. That's why any of the job at the start, usually we start that one with plus minus 30 to 35% error in that one. When I say error, it's not in terms of error or engineering error, in terms of plus minus cost and schedule wise. Okay, so that's how we look into it, and this is how we are going to execute that one. So once you go to the next stage, when you are defining that one in terms of engineering, it goes to further down to plus minus 20. So you are further having a more vision, more clarity exactly how it will be, you will be executing it, and what sort of a cost will be required, what sort of a resources will be required, and the scope is much clearer to you. When you go for the execution stage, you are plus minus 10 in terms of cost, in terms of risk, in terms of from the resources point of view also. When you are executing down the line, when you are about 60% plus complete on the project, you are nearly about plus minus 5%. And that's where the client and you being a contractor or even the subcontractor need to focus on the project itself, that how I'm going to complete the project within the time, within the cost which I've agreed on, if it's lump sum project or in cost plus also, or if you're doing that based on the resources, because you need to, as I said earlier, that you need to deem off some of the resources. So you need to really focus on, and you don't have the margin much on that. It's only about plus minus 5% at the progressive stage when you're going down the line towards the commissioning or before the commissioning part. Guys, do you have any of the questions so far?
I just got one question. You mentioned about the program manager and portfolio. So what is the difference between, all I understood, like project manager is just like a bottom level, then the next one is program, and then the portfolio. So what level of work they look at? So like, what's the defining line between these three steps? Like,
Sure. Some of the projects, when you are defining that one, it depends on the complexity, it depends on the dollar value, it depends on the risk, it depends on the HSE value of it, it depends on the community, it depends on the region. So there are a number of variables which are sitting behind defining that one, that project. But there are some unique factors which are consistent and which are quite similar. So you group those projects together. For example, in the region when we are doing the pipelines are going into the north region. For example, we are taking the wheat belt, yeah, in WA. When we are doing that one, any of the project into that region, we define that one as a program. Although it's an independent project and independent teams are running that one, but there is a program manager which is sitting on the top, which is looking at a higher level from the cost point of view, from the schedule point of view, from the resources point of view, from the safety point of view, to mulch or to merge all these projects into single identity. And then he will be responsible for all of these. On top of that one, we have the portfolio manager, or sometimes the GM of the department itself, or sometimes the branch manager. They are the one who is responsible for the complete hierarchy of it. Okay, so they are the one who release the complete cost for 100 plus projects. You are doing that one in Waterco, for example, every year. And then those projects are being distributed among these programs. And among these programs, you are having sometimes 20 projects, sometimes you have 50 projects, and sometimes you have only 2 projects, depending upon all those variables. And that's how you define it. So these are the different layers you need to keep in mind when you are defining that one in terms of project, roll up into program, roll up into portfolio. Does that answer the question?
yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, moving to the next one. The project life cycle. I think I covered that one to some extent, or I still explain to you. That's the normal curve, and the curves sometimes change from time to time. So it can be like a front-loaded curve, and it can be also like a back-loaded curve. Okay, and sometimes it goes to plateau also. So for example, you're taking the engineering studies. You start that engineering study, and it will go further another 6 months just straight, because you are studying the data. Okay, so it is a consistent straight line, and then it goes further down. So that's a complete different scenario and a shape itself. But the shape you have that one on the screen is quite like an easy one, in which any of the project, when you're starting that one at the start, it takes sometimes mobilization about depending on the project itself. But for mining projects, the mobilization will take about 1 month to 2 months. Okay, that's why you see the curve is ramping up very slowly, and it's skewed towards your my right hand side. And then you go for your intermediate stage, in which you are having the maximum number of procurement items already are available to installation. You are having, or you already have started that one. Your engineering is almost complete or about to complete on that one, or you already have completed the engineering, and then you are doing the execution or installation of the equipment itself. You are testing that one. The last stage, you see that one as a final phase. You are having the commissioning or the pre-commissioning. Then you have the SAT, which is your system acceptance test. You have the FAT, which is the factory acceptance test. You have the EFAT also, which is the extended one. So that final phase, the distance between, or the line, you see that one on the screen, further extended out depending on the test to test. So that's a very typical generic diagram. You see that one in terms of a project life cycle, and it varies from project to project. Next one is the scoping, guys. So for the scoping, if you are involved that one in the manufacturing side, it's the environment, they call that one is the product environment. For example, when you look at in Pakistan, when we are having the Suzuki or Toyota, or here you have that like a Ford or some of the other companies, or any of the product, or Coca-Cola, for example, they are doing it. So that's the product scope, and the environment itself is called that one for the project itself is the product scope. Okay, and for the project scope itself, I say that in the work that must be done to deliver a product with the specific features and functions. It's again related to the definition again. Okay, there is no such as difference in that one. The only definition which is having the difference is the product scope itself, which is a characteristic. So you are defining that one for a certain product which is having a certain characteristics, and you then need to be developed in a multiple batches. So that will be the only difference. Okay, for the when you're doing for the project scope, there is no batches for it. You're doing that one a unique project as a whole. It's just the stages or the phases of it. Okay, in terms of tool, number of tools are used. Again, depending on the project to project, you're using that one, the strategic tools. You're using that one. You're using that one for some of the methodologies. So they might be different for it. Some of the scope itself is defined. So there are some of the tools available. For example, Six Sigma is available is in the market. Some companies adopt that one. Agile is also is there. So some companies adopt that sort of concept. So when I compare that one with Six Sigma, you're focusing that one on the lean. Okay, your work. So you're removing any of the wastage from the project itself, especially I would say IT companies are the one predominantly focusing on that one. But Vodacom, for example, is a utility company, and Western Power is a utility company. They are using that one too. And when you are looking at that one for the agile approach, you are doing a simple set of activities, but that should be tested. That's the only difference you are having that one with another like or generic project approach, which we had that one before. So when you go for any of the project step, when you, for example, when you're doing the engineering part, okay, when whatever be the engineering output in terms of drawings you are having that one, or in terms of any of the model you have that one, you need to test it. Okay, you develop the prototype of it, and then you check that one in terms of 3D or 4D or and then based on that you model it, and then you apply that one so that whether that one is really doable or not. So that was one of the approach which is like I said in use. Product scope again, that one. So I think Salman, you were asking that one before regarding, so is the same sort of information. You see that one from the top again. You have the program. Although that was an aeroplane example, but again, it applies that one to construction industry also. It applies that one to even manufacturing. So you are giving a set of like a scope on the top that we are doing that one. For example, you are doing Jeep, you are doing that one a sedan, you are doing that one some of the other like vehicles also. Okay, and then based on that one, you divide that one into subgroups. You divide that one into major components. So you can contact that one with the supply chain. You contact that one with the procurement side of it, and then you go for the assembly line. On the assembly line, for them that one is a single assembly, or sometimes you have multiple assemblies which is running in parallel. But even for the example's sake, I'll only take that one for a single assembly, in which the procurement are giving their input. Engineering already have provided input in terms of the model. And the manufacturing the team is working that one on the independent parts. So they are responsible for procuring and also the availability of those parts in time. So of course, I'm sure you are aware of just-in-time concept. So that's most likely like applicable that one here. Sub-assemblies, when you break that those components into further detail out. I take the example of refinery and the gas plants where I work. When we go for the washers also, even for the nuts and to the bolts, and you go that one to any of the seals, any of the coils also, you need to make sure that when these are all available, that one in Maximo at that time we were using, or SAP you were using that one. All those information, you are having the complete hierarchy of it, and also the child-parent relationship. So once you pick that one, for example, if I'm picking that one for Honda as my vehicle, it will give me the complete dictionary of all the equipments, sub-equipments, parts, tools, which are used that one with that equipment. Okay, so that's predominantly used that one by manufacturing, aerospace, nuclear. So these are the ones predominantly have used it. Oil and gas to some extent, they also use that one, but again, not in detail enough. Sometimes they have the information available in terms of asset management. So that's another like a big area we can discuss later on when we get the time. So asset management is one of the area which covers that one all. Okay, quite a generic example for the WBS. So that's the work breakdown structure you are having for any of the job. When you define the job, you have the scope of work on the top. You define that one, the key milestones on the contractual milestones, which is the next step. The next step, which is you see that one is here, for example, you have foundations, ground floor, first floor, and the roof. So these are the items for that project itself. Okay, so that's the skeleton of it. What you're going to develop that one in that project. So these are bits and pieces of it. How you're going to do that one. So earthworks, for example, when you are applying that one for the foundation of any of the equipments, you are doing the earthworks and you're doing that for some of the structural work for it. So earthworks, of course, is the groundwork, and anything which is on the top, you are doing that one is your structural works. Okay. Further, if you break that one down, when you're starting any of the earthworks, you are doing the excavation. For the excavation, you need the quantity. Okay, for it, or whether you are using soil, you're using the sand for it, or you need some specific material, you are using that. So in terms of quantities, you need to be focused on that one, being the project engineer or the future or the existing project manager. If you are using that one, you need to be focusing that one on in terms of quantities, how many meter cubes you are using that one, in terms of, for example, meter square you are using that one, or any of the other measurements you are having or parameters. Okay, so once you have that detailed structure defined, again, accountability goes back to the project manager, sometimes to the senior project engineer or the project engineer, but to define that one goes back to the planning or the planner, okay, or the scheduler. So they define that one to some extent, all of these, okay, and with the coordination that one with the project manager, commercial manager, to understand exactly what sort of area we are extending it. And the WBS can be further extended out depending on from level 3 to level 6 and some level 7 also. So for shutdowns, we sometimes go to level 8. Okay, guys. Now the next one is the project scope definition. I touched base on in one of the slide. So definition itself is defining that one, what sort of a bill of material you are using that one to the WBS. So you have the complete set of equipment, okay, their breakdown, what you are going to use, how many you are going to use that one in terms of number, what will be the cost of it, who will be the supplier, where is going to be fit in. Okay, so that's in SAP or in Maximo and some of the other tools they are using that. Yep, so you can insert that information, maintain the complete dictionary of it, and you link that one to your WBS. Either it's a seamless link between your maintenance tool to your planning tool, for example, SAP to P6, or from SAP to MS Project, or you're using that one from Maximo to P6, for example. Yeah, so you can still relate that one, or if there is no seamless connection, then you will extract that information into the CSV file, or sometimes you are having that one in Excel also, and then you upload that information into P6 to define your WBS. The way you have that bill of material is quite detailed, okay, in those tools which I talk about, for example, SAP and Maximo, but in the P6 you define that one at a bit higher level, not to that extent. But there is a relationship all the time available, And then sometimes we use the activity code in P6. So you can define that one, how those activity codes can be used. And then you can have a same sort of transparency. So whenever, for example, our design engineer or even a system engineer or even the site engineer or project engineer talk about one specific item in build of material, they know, planner know, project manager know that how to track that stuff into your WBS, into the activity of the schedule. So I'll talk about the activity and then activity and definitions. I'll just skip that one. So you can read that one further. Okay, so on the project scope, it's basically, and in terms of, so when I park this one or edit that information, or edit that one in terms of change management. So any of the items you have that when you started that one initially with the project, when you're progressing in the project, sometimes you have a similar sort of items available in the market. You have a replacement items available in the market, or sometimes you have to replace that one with a new design change. Okay, so if these sort of things apply, then you capture that one in the scope change management. Anything which is you change that one, which can impact directly or indirectly to the execution of your job and towards the delivery of the final milestone. If there is having any impact to it in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of resources, in terms of safety, or even in terms of any of the goodwill itself for the project. For example, utilities companies are well focused on the goodwill. So any changes to it, whether that pipeline which you define that one, going that one from the suburban area and you already have isolated that one, now they are having, and the council came in and although you get the approval, now the council was saying that one, that we are having some of the issues from the people who living in that area that we cannot execute. So you need to redefine that one sometimes. So that sort of is the stuff you need to add that one into the project down the line. And it's a live project and it's a live document. So that change management is all the time coming into the project from time to time. You need to make sure that when it becomes visible, it becomes transparent and available to the project team all the time. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, I'll move on. All right. Few examples. As you can see that one, like us towards the whole round of the information you have that one here, we really need to understand that what exactly is the customer is asking. That's why there is a complete group of people as in sometimes independent department which have not only negotiated that one, but to discuss that one and to understand exactly what the customer wants. And that's the key thing, because if you don't understand at the first end that what exactly is the customer is asking, you keep on working on the stuff which sometimes is too late, or when you apply for any of the changes to it, it might cost you, not the client itself. So there are two things you need to identify or keep that one in mind, that if there is a change coming out from the client, you need to capture that one in the change management process and acknowledge it, and then get that approved that one from the client. Okay, good to have is to park that one as a project requirements, but again, these are the one which you need still, if there is no impact in terms of your time, which is the precious thing for you, in terms of cost, in terms of HSE and some of the other parameters. Okay, if there is anything out of these parameters are being impacted, you need to go back to your project manager, or the project manager need to discuss that one with the project director, and then to the client, that this sort of impact we are having that. And then being transparent, you need to make sure that the impact is well defined. If it's coming from you, you need to define that one, that how I participated into that impact. If the impact is coming that one from the client, you need to make it visible. And that's where the planning role comes in. And then the planner need to really identify and add that information into the schedule from the day one. Any changes which occur should be identified in the schedule, becomes also visible that one to the project engineer, to the project manager, so that when you're going towards the end of the project, and if you apply that one for extension of time, or you are applying for, or the client is applying for any of the liquidated damages to you, likewise, you have the record, you have the complete evidence that why there is that change occurs and how it impacted the complete overall schedule. All right. So definition wise, there is not much on the scope management. I think I already have defined that one here. Um, definition wise, I already covered scope definition, but scope planning and scope verification. These two I like to cover that one now. Planning is the most important critical item whenever you are defining any of the project. Planning itself is not the responsibility of the planner itself. They are likewise heavily dependent on that. But again, planning is the responsibility of the project manager and the project engineers also, because they know how to execute the job. Okay, the planner can logically link those activities and define those activities, and then give them the critical path, give them the end date, give them all these sort of fancy reports. But again, at the end of the day, if the report is not right, because the main reason goes back to is that one, the logically the link at the start, the planning was not fully functional. So again, everybody need to focus on that one, what we are going to deliver, how we are going to deliver that one, what will be the time frame for the delivery itself, and what are the steps you're going to follow. The scope verification, every step when you are executing that one in any of the project, the verification, so they call it assurance team. Don't confuse that one with the quality assurance. There is another assurance team inside the project, depending upon the size of the project. But there is a team of assurance engineers, they call it, or sometimes assurance analysts also. Their job is to verify what exactly in the scope. So they do indirectly sort of a governance process or audit on those projects. They apply that way, and then they identify that one, that whether the cost at the start is right or not. When we completed that stage of the project, whenever we are having that one, for example, when the engineering is completed, what we have delivered that one, is it really what we are going to deliver that one, or when you execute that one, is it what exactly is being identified? So they verify all these stages in terms of concept. They do that one for the engineering. In terms of engineering, you have that one for detailed design or conceptual design. Then you go for a procurement part, they verify that one too. They go for the next step in which you are using those procurement items into your installation or working on the sites from time to time. It can be with the client, with the third party, or you that one internally at your own. Okay, monitoring the project itself, quite a well-defined diagram. I'll just pick that. These are the different facets you see that one throughout the project, and then these are all interrelated. So you go every single day, you like face all of these from time to time, again depending on the intensity itself of the project and this or of that phase itself. For example, project procurement and the time management and the scope itself. So there is, as you can see that one on the diagram, there is no arrow to say that when it goes left or right on that side, because they are all interconnected. Okay, so when you're executing the project, these are all at the same time happening, but some of these at the forefront, or some of these are in the limelight. Okay, so focusing on all these different aspects is a main primary important job for any of the project engineer or the project manager. I will be defining that one, inshallah, like I said, in the future, to touch base on individual these items. So my plan is that one to touch on as a single complete training or session on that one, or discussion session with you guys as a workshop, in which I will be only focusing that one, for example, schedule and time management, only on the cost management side, only that one on the risk management side, and some of the other. Okay, another good example, I'll try to give that one here. People were saying that one, like we go for a single project, we know the template, we know exactly, so every single project we are going into the market, we use the same philosophy, same methodology, more or less the same project team members who executed the same project before. Now they are the one who will be doing that project again. Not necessarily exactly is that will applicable to all these projects. Like to like projects, when you're doing that one for a road project, yes, you are doing material wise more or less, you are using the same material, philosophy might be the same, method might be the same, but again the weather conditions might be different. Okay, the client is having a different requirement for it. You might be using a new technology to do the same road. You did that one like was 3 months or a year back in a similar or sort of different region, in fact. So you need to keep that one in mind whenever you're going for any of the new project, that all projects are unique, and you need to make sure that when all parameters are captured and executed accordingly. All right, guys. The next one is your time, quality, and cost. Let me just quickly check the time. I'm still having, okay. So these three triangles, basically focusing on the resource side, quality wise, and the time itself. So these independently required an independent session, but I just want to give you a flavor exactly that when these are things are coincide and these working are in parallel as and been given a due course for it, these are the main themes you will be focusing on any of the project. So if you have the time in control, you have the cost in control, and you have the quality focused team, then most likely you will be delivering the projects, if not late, or like as you don't have a very like a high extension of time on that one, because projects we work on, as long as it's lump sum, companies or the contractors try to complete that one on time, or at least with very little delay. But when you are having the cost plus and some of the other options you have, there is always the new scope of work or scope changes, and that extended the complete duration of the project itself. Time management wise, probability of occurrence, that's a simple diagram. I'll put that one here. Duration wise, when you are looking at any of the project, okay, project team concept in their mind, being the project manager, is all time is that if we start and execute that one at the early stage, yeah, we are most likely going to complete that activity early, and we will be having some slack or some float available towards the end of the project, so we can complete it. Not necessarily is the case. So any project or any activity inside the project is having a minimum duration for it, where you can optimize your duration in terms of resources, in terms of executing it, and you can complete that one. So duration can be 5 days. Average duration is 5 days. You may complete that one in 4 days, or you may complete that one in 6 days too. Okay, because of the multiple variables in terms of weather, in terms of delay from the material, you name it. Excuse me. So based on that one, you can have that sort of a curve. So most likely duration is the spot everybody like to pick, but again, it varies from project to project. Optimistic, as you can see on the diagram also, that this is the duration for any activity you have in your project. Project manager tried to focus on that one, because he or she know that one, that if we achieve that activity in a minimum duration, I can still use that extra time in some of the activities which might delay down the line. Estimate activity duration. Again, different concepts are available there. Different tools are available there. You can use that one in the Gantt chart, or you use that one in MS Project, PE6, and there are multiple other tools which are available. So any of the duration, either you can benchmark that. Okay, so if you have the history maintained within your company or as an individual, then you can compare that I did similar sort of a project in past. Okay, my average duration was that. Not exactly you can use the same duration, but your average duration was that. Okay, and then when you have that discussion, that one with the client, you are having the leverage to discuss it and challenge their durations. Okay, so based on that one, you can apply that. Elaborate schedule of activities. So as I said that one to you, many of the different tools which are available, and those tools you can use that one for optimizing that duration of those activities from time to time. Project time management wise, you can use that one most of the time for any of the project which we use. If we are using the relationship is finished to start a relationship. Okay, so if you are doing any of the logical linking, okay, for activities you are using, either you are using that one for oil and gas, or using that one for infrastructure, you're using that one for even for mining also. Ideally, if you can do that one finish to start, that will be good. So you can have some float available. But in the real world, you're having the relationship finish to finish also, sometimes start to start. But we don't apply, being the planner also, we don't usually use that one start to finish on that one, okay? Because you're crossing the logic sometimes for some of the activities. So time management wise, whenever you are having the completed schedule is a set of these 4 different items you are having, whether you are having finish to start, start to start, finish to, and then you have the start to start and then finish to start on that one. If I repeated that one, sorry. Network diagram, I don't know whether I should go into that detail or not. I'm running short on the time also, so I'll skip to that. But again, network diagrams are the ones which used predominantly or started that one with the aerospace industry. And they use that one just to define that one, how all the activities are linked or should be linked, okay? You have the similar sort of thing pattern available in P6 in Primavera, and you can define that one. So once you have logically linked all those activities, you can see in terms of network logic diagram or PERT, all these sort of diagrams straight away. Float, I don't touch that on the free float, but I'll touch base on the float as total. Any activity, we complete that one in 5 days, for example. But you know that one, that if I have the resources available, I have the complete set of favorable conditions available, and then I know exactly what sort of a method I will be using to execute that job. You might do that one in, for example, in 4 days. So that 1 day you have that one in between 4 to 5 days, which is 1 day in between, that is your float. Okay, so that's the float in the activity itself. But when you are linking that activity to another activity, which you have that one, but you are starting that one 2 days after, okay, so that 2 days to start the next activity is your float itself. Sometimes you use that float, you deliberately insert that float, okay, and there are like a still debate and discussion in the industry that who own the float. But the common grounds are is that one, that it is being owned by the contractor and the client both, okay? But whenever you are having your schedule completed, you need to define and identify and understand, being the project engineer and the project manager, that you have in this section, in this phase of my project, I still have float available. So keep that one all the time back of your head, that whenever you're executing that one, whether you have the float available, so you are a bit relaxed on that one, changing some new philosophy, some new methodology to apply that execution. If you don't have that one and that activity is already start to finish without on a critical path, you need to make sure that one that that activity is executed on a specific time which you already have defined, or you set that one as a baseline. All right, guys. So planned values from the cost wise, earned value, different concepts. Again, you are using that one whenever you are having at the start of the project, you have the budgeted cost. So that's your total cost of the project, and you break that one into as per the WBS for individual activities. You load that budgeted cost for those activities in terms of quantities, in terms of resources, how much your resource cost you. It costs you maybe $100, $120, $80, or whatever be the cost is. Okay, and then you multiply that one by total number of hours or total number of days you are using that one. And then you define that one in terms of earned value. So you plan that one for 10 days. Okay, and in 10 days, you have completed the work as your actual is only might be only about 9 days. Okay, but when you look at the physical quantity of the work which you have completed is your earned value, you might be only about maybe 7 days of the worth of the percentage, or 70% of the earned value you have achieved. So you need to, your SPI, which is your scheduled performance index, will be less than 1, because whatever you have planned that one as 1, for example, you have achieved about 70% of it. And the actual cost towards the end is again what will be the cost, which like us in terms of material, in terms of labor, non-labor, cost to the company in terms of as a project, and then in terms of you have the breakdown for. So you can have a different report you can run in which you have the individual cost by the phases, by the activity wise. Quality side, very well focused here in Australia also, I think, and some of the other places worldwide. So a few of the projects work in Europe, Middle East, and in US also. So I saw that one there. Again, PDCA is the main focus all the time. So you whatever you plan that one, you apply that exactly what you plan. So it applies that one to the project also. It applies that one to the quality, which is one aspect of the project itself. You check or you inspect or you do the assurance check that whatever you are doing that one is as per the standards, as per the parameters, as per all the upper limits and the lower limits which you already have defined. And once it's all completed, you analyze that one, and then you from there you go for the next stage. Human resource. Okay, so human resource wise, I'm sure everybody like us is aware of what they do, but from the project point of view, their involvement is from the start when you're going to execute the schedule. So they are involved in that one in the hiring process. They involve that one in the mobilization process. They are involved that one acquiring the facility. So whenever you are going on a remote location, you're going that one in the city also. They are involved discussing that one with the community affairs team. Yeah, they are discussing that one with, for example, councils also indirectly or directly sometimes, and what their controls are. So they have defined the project team. So project team, as I said, is a bit unique. So every project team members, if they are even permanent, they move to a new project. If they are hired on a contractual basis, they have their clauses and they execute those clauses from time to time, depending on the project. I can give you the example for one of the project I worked that one in Darwin. Darwin is having the monsoon period starting from November till April. So we have to release the resources. We hire that one for the civil work because it's continuously cyclone and the rain. So we contacted that one with the human resource department, and they have applied all those terms and clauses based on the temporary resources which we are hiring that one. And we completely define the complete schedule and the plan for it, when we are going to resource the resources, how we are going to resource that one, and then how we are going to contact that one again into the future. All right, so I'll skip to that one. That's just an example itself, running out of time. RACI chart, we call it. So that's quite heavily used in the project management. So RACI, so responsibility, accountability, confirmed, I think, and informed. So these are the ones which you use. It depends upon, so on your left hand side where you can see that one in the phase or the person, you define sometimes the activities, what you are doing on any of the project in the phases. For example, you are doing design. I'm taking again the high level example. You're defining the design, you're doing that one for procurement, you're doing for execution, you're doing pre-commissioning and the commissioning part. Okay. And on the top here, you see that one A, B, C, D, E, F on the top. There you are having the names of the resources. For example, project director, project manager, project engineer, cost engineer, planner, commercial manager or commercial engineer. Yeah. And then they are defined based on whether they are participating in that one, they becomes accountable for that activity, they require the review, or their input is being required into that one, or they are the one who's accountable to sign that one off. So it's a detailed document. If you Google that one, or maybe in the future I will share with you, but that's how it's being defined. Subcontracting. Subcontracting basically require that one whenever any company, depending on the size of the company and complexity of the company itself, they sometimes do the engineering by themselves. They sometimes go for like outsourcing that one. So subcontracting is really one of the focus area which engineers deal that from time to time, and they are the ones which go into the market and ask for their services for a certain period of time, for a certain phase of the project. All right, guys, got a detailed one on the information management, but I'll go through with that, rather than we read the whole thing. Information wise, nowadays the focus for all the mining companies especially is that whatever be the data they have generated, that one, or even the government companies, for example, when they are doing that one with the projects, you have that one for the rail, or you have that one for even for the roadside also. They are focusing for the data. They have that one for last 10, 20 plus years, and they're contacting the big fours. So PwC, Deloitte, and some of the other companies they're contacting because they don't have the internal resources to do that. So they are contacting and giving them their raw data. And from their raw data, they are defining the different scenarios of what the raw data is telling them, what sort of sensitivity analysis they are running that one in terms of information they have, how they are going to store that information, how they are going to utilize that information into the future to do the decision making. Because that data is very much useful. So when you have completed the project, all the companies are focusing on that one, but it's hardly done, which is the lesson learned. So any of the project which is completed, they have the lesson learned exercise towards the end, and sometimes the project managers are being changed, project engineers are being changed, number of people or resources are already being demobbed or moved to another project. You don't have the leverage to ask them information, or you can do that one in phases and you can do the lesson learned exercise. But again, the data is all the time available whenever you are doing. So these companies, what they are focusing now is that whenever they are going for a new project, whether it's greenfield or brownfield project, they are looking into that data set, which can tell them that in terms of benchmarking, in terms of risk, in terms of insurance also, that if we are providing the insurance or getting the insurance from any of the company for my project, what sort of impact I will be putting that, okay? And what sort of a percentage I will be putting that one, because everything goes back to the dollar value, okay? So if they know that one from the data set, that for the last 10 years, we have done similar sort of a 3 or 8 projects, okay? And based on that one, that is my average cost for that material. And this is the area which I was unable to focus on, okay? So this is the area I should be talking that one to the insurance company to put the insurance more on that one rather than in some of the other areas. Because sometimes every project, or especially the complex projects, the insurance companies are providing the insurance based on the phases of the project, okay? Sometimes on the procurement items, sometimes on the delivery. For example, from Port Hedland, when you are delivering that one to some of the big structures, the insurance company take the responsibility of all those insurance claims which can happen that one during that period of time until that material or the module reaches that one to its destination. Engineering change management, that's a slightly repetitive slide, but again, I already touched base on the engineering management side. When you talk about the change,
one question I have on
yeah,
this
sure,
insurance part. So you mentioned that the insurance companies are insuring projects on different phases, but usually on a project or on a big scale construction project, there is a CAR insurance, construction all risk insurance, which covers the whole project usually, and all the subcontractors are covered in that. So where does that stand in terms of, so is that the responsibility of the executing company, or is that the responsibility of the owner of the project, or whoever the owner is?
Sure. So Minaj, it all depends upon the terms and conditions you agree that one with the insurance company. They are all, sometimes they having the complete 100% responsibility of it. For example, when I gave you the example for this Port Hedland module transfer, BHP don't take the responsibility of that module transfer, although it's and the contractor also don't take the responsibility. So they both agree on that one in terms of their contractual terms and conditions. Then when we hire the insurance company, we will share our percentage to it. So the company share that one, let's say about 70% of it, or sometimes 65% of it, and the rest is shared by the contractor. It also varies from time to time that the manufacturer is the one who's take the responsibility of complete, like it's not only the fabrication, but also the delivery till the end. So it depends. So there are a number of clauses which are defined that one by the commercial team, and then that's how they are executed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Clear.
For the engineering change management side, it's quite a detailed diagram. Again, I don't want to spend like as much time on that, but any of the engineering change which happen from the concept stage, okay, that should be captured, should be visible in a separate document. We call it change management procedure. Okay, so that document is a live document. You apply that document through the lifetime or the lifespan of the project itself. Okay, and then that document is being submitted, that one, to the client. So that document is being used, that one, in terms of claims you're having, that one, in terms of extension of time if you're having that one, in terms of any of the incident or accident happen. Okay, so that change management is being defined. For example, if you have the incident on site and then you make the changes to the engineering part of it, okay, that need to be captured inside that document.
And does it only have to be engineering change management, or we can capture any changes, like changes in terms and condition, or change in scope, or change in any of those other
Yes.
things?
So in this one, for the slide you have, that one is specifically about the engineering change management. But we have, so the procedure is called as engineering change management procedure. Okay, but you have the change management system also on the top, which covers for the whole span of the project phases. Okay, so that's what you are referring to. So that in that document, in that procedure, you capture the complete stages of it. Engineering is one part of it.
Okay.
So it's just I'll just skip to that one too. Last one is the risk management. So any of the company nowadays, especially as I said, oil and gas was doing that one for quite a long time. And I can give you the example for Petronas. I worked there and conducted about more than 100 workshops on the risk management. Any project which is going from one stage or one gate to the next gate, you have to conduct a one risk workshop, in which you need to define that one, what sort of risk which will implies on that stage, in terms of cost, in terms of material, in terms of third party, in terms of mobilization, and you name it. So I usually have, well, previously I had the complete set of data, in which I had that one for 100 projects. I did the risk workshop. So I have the complete risk registers. So I combine that one, all those registers into one, and then use the Power BI for it. So in Power BI, you can just simply click on the assets. For example, when you're using that one for offshore platform, you're using that for subsea pipeline, you're using that one for 4-leg platform, 6 or 8, or you're using for LNG. You click on that asset, it will give you the complete risk register for specifically for each phases of the project. Then you select the phase, for example, engineering, it will give you the risk for that one. So nowadays you have the quite number of risk tools which are available. Acumen is quite good. Sword is another one. And you have PertMaster, which is now called as Primavera Risk Analysis, which can do the Monte Carlo risk analysis workshop. Like as you can define that one as in your own environment. And so basically for any of the project, you are defining for each phases, and then activity wise, what is the likelihood of completing that activity. If you don't complete that one on time, or if you complete that one before time, what will be the percentage of it? Most likely is 100. For example, you're completing on time. Worst case scenario, I'm unable to complete that activity because it will be a rain tomorrow and I cannot do my paving activity on site. So it is going to, and because of the monsoon season, it might be having about like a 10% of the impact on my total duration of the paving activities, which I'm doing that one in that month of June, for example, or July. So in a nutshell, that's how you define that. Any of the risk engineers involved or any of the risk managers involved, that one, they go hand in hand, that one, with the project managers, with the commercial managers. They define the risk in terms of cost, in terms of resources, in terms of overall health of the project itself. Excuse me. I think the next diagram, you can just see that one here is one of the classical risk register. So the likelihood, you discuss that one with the subject matter experts, and then they give you the impact of that specific activity. Once you have that impact available, Again, you can use the simple Excel also. You can do that from Excel, or there are tools available which can multiply that one for you. But you need to define that one. What will be the number which will define you? It's like, for example, catastrophic, or it's severe, it's medium, it's low. So you need to define that one at the early stage, that what will be the severity of it. So once you define the severity of it, you define that when is going to be applied, what sort of a mitigation actions is going to be applied. And once the mitigation is applied to it, whether the risk, which is, for example, 110% before, now reduces that one to 108 or 105, or you completely reduce it, or you eliminate that one, and you are back to normal duration, which is 100%. Risk itself is a complete training required for it. I'm more than happy to give you the help on that one if the people required. That's a classic, again, matrix. When you see that one in terms of cost, in terms of schedule, scope, quality, and there are some other things you can still define. Every company define that one at a director level, or at the board level. Sorry, at the board level you define that. At the portfolio level you define that. You define that one again at the program, and at the individual project level also. You define this matrix, that what sort of severity you will be defining that one in terms of cost or other variables you have. All right, guys, you can read that diagram like a bit later stage. What I have covered that one so far is just the whole thing in that diagram. So it will define you from the, like when the project is born, in its infancy, it goes that one to the maturity stage, it is completed, and is delivered that one to the operations. So towards the end, any of the questions you like to ask?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Mera question, anyway, I have a question regarding like cultural values, like project management also heavily involve or depend upon the cultural values. Like if you are executing a project in Middle East versus executing the same project in Australia,
sure,
they are totally different projects. Although we are working on the triple constraint, but again, they are totally different projects. So my question, which I'm facing a lot of in Australia, that how to convince like customer or your client that extra feature or extra scope they are asking for is basically scope creep, not scope change. Because I feel that the word creep, they don't want to use it very frequently, and they call it scope change.
Sure.
Although I try to brainstorm them many times, but again, they don't want to use a scope creep word. So this is the and what is your experience on this, because you are experienced on this. So this is the one. Second is second, which as a project engineer I face, like the word which we use in daily life, client normally use, is as per previous supply. So when they use as per previous supply and full stop it, like for Gorgon, done in 10 or 15 years before, now as per previous supply, and yesterday I have an issue within the equipment that it has been manufactured in our Italian plant. It is ready to ship, but as per previous supply, everything is good. But during the different stage of the project, the specification change, and from 0, and now we are working on revision 10, and equipment should be on revision 10. So this is the second question. And last question is regarding the lesson learned. So lesson learned in project management, who's responsible to document it, who's responsible to approve it, and either we have to share it with the customer or no. Okay. Because in Australia, I'm facing all these 3 problems every day, and different, like Chevron has different, Shell has different,
yeah.
Oil Search different. Everybody has their own project management. Like basics are same, but they have different ideas.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you the reply for your creep and the scope change, like the difference. The thing is that when scope creep, likewise, you understand it. Most of the project managers understand it, even the client understand it, but they don't want to use it, because the thing is that one, if they say that one is a scope creep, yeah, they cannot ask the contractor or the subcontractor to apply it. Okay, So any of the wish list items is scope creep, okay, which any project engineer or the project manager should park that one on one side, discuss that one with the commercial team, and try to quantify it. Once you quantify that one, and then you discuss that one again back to the client, if they are ready to pay for the resources for it, if they are ready to pay for the change, as you mentioned that one, it's a change, okay, it's not a scope creep. So if they are agree to all of these, yeah, more than happy to apply it. Otherwise, you put that one as a wish list, and again, it should be again negotiated, that one based with the commercial team. So your role being the project engineer or the project manager is to identify, apply that one, or notify that one to the commercial team. Their responsibility is to discuss that one with the client. Okay.
Yep.
The second one you asked that one. So third one you asked that one for lesson learned. So that I remember. You need to remind me for the second one. So for lesson learned, the responsibility as per the RACI chart or the matrix goes that one to the project manager. Okay. Lesson learned, he is responsible to complete that one, to identify that one, to submit that one, to record it, to store it, and he need to make sure that one, ideally, it should be on all the phases of the project. It is executed. From when I was working for GE in Cameroon at that time, for any phase of the project, when we completed for any of the project, we conducted a 1 week, about 4 to 5 days workshop, in which we invite all the system engineers, all the project engineers, along with the commercial team and the procurement team, and we take their input on that one. Okay. And from time to time, that lesson register is a live document. You start adding that one because people go from time to time or leave the job or move to another project. So in a nutshell, you need to make sure that one, if you're responsible for it, being the project engineer or the project manager, you need to execute in a different phases of it and close that, so that it can be further executed and can be used that one by the rest of the other team. What's your third question?
Yeah, my third question was like, when we say as per the previous supply.
Oh, yes. So that's
This is very generic statement, but in Australia,
no, it's good.
It's
good. I understand. I understand where you're coming from. So even Chevron, Woodside, they all use that one. So when I was working that one for Worley, we have received the same sort of statement that flare they have designed. So Worley designed that one at that time. It was Transfield Worley. They designed that one 20 years back. They were saying that one, can you use the similar sort of, can you use the same red marks drawings or as-built drawings? You use that one here. Okay. The same thing, they were saying that one, can you use the same sort of procurement list items, bill of material, and you can use it. What we did at that time, and most of the companies are doing that one, even GSD is using it for water corp projects, that they bring that information, they submit that one to the client with the new changes to it. They were saying that when these are the design specifications, dimensions, and parameters, we had that one at that time, and these are the new one. Okay. To apply and execute the scope of work which you are asking as of now, these are the existing changes, okay, which we acknowledge as per your comment or the statement in terms of your commercial terms. And these are the changes which we like to execute in order to complete your project as being asked. Okay. So when this document is being submitted, that one to the client, they only have one option, either to accept it or they reject it. If they reject that one, we don't have another document or we can just build that sort of equipment or plant or module or even the phase of that specific project based on the previous information. But if you need to verify that one, it takes a long time to get the verification done. Once the verification is completed, we are all on the same page. If not, during the phases of the project, when you move from the one stage to the next, when you're submitting that one, your Rev 1, your Rev 2, your Rev 3, and you're going for your AFC drawings, you need to identify and ask them to verify and endorse it. Once the endorsement is completed, they are bound to not only pay for it, but to make sure that one, this is the one which you're going to execute.
Yep. So you mean it should be clear in the first phase, like initialization?
Absolutely.
And we should consider the cost and everything for during the initialization, get the approval, and then proceed. Yes.
So any of the project which you are executing, that one, whenever you receive the blanket statement, that, for example, for Gorgon 1, we have used these equipments and you have provided that one the Christmas tree. Yep. Same Christmas tree. So it's like to like. Even if you are using like to like, the material demand is different now. You have improved your Christmas tree engineering part of it, or the manufacturing and the fabrication part of it. You have improved that one on the material itself. So all of these need to be provided that one to the client in terms of cost, in terms of time, and in terms of quality also.
Yep. Thank you very much. Yep.
All right. All right, guys. Anybody who's having some more questions for it?
Assalamu alaikum, Arslan bhai. I believe most of the question Atib bhai has asked on behalf of most of us. But just quick one with regards to one of the slide which you are going to mention about Power BI. And you were, if I'm not mistaken, it was mentioned about risk management and accountability or probably lack of communication. But what are the tools, or what are the tools you are using, or perspective you are using when you face the challenges of like inadequate skills of team members, or like unrealistic deadlines, or when you have lack of clear goals and there is a success criteria? So when these things arise, how you deal with that, or how to deal with that?
Sure.
Jazakallah if you respond.
Amjad, this look like to be an interview question for me, but I'll still answer that one. All right. So what usually happen at, I can relate that one with one of the example from the PDO, which is Petroleum Development of Oman. Their systems are good, very mature systems, but very slow. Okay. So you do a job, for example, here in Australia in 6 months period of time, they do that one in, for example, about in 14 months. Okay. No way you can complete it. But the problem is, here is that one in 6 months, you do that one, and then you have the change management. You have this extension of time. You have that one, some quality issues, and all these sort of things creep in. Okay. These are all becomes part of your project, and it be slightly extended from 6 months to maybe 7 months or a few weeks here and there. Okay. But what happens is that one with PDO, I'm not saying that when they are perfect, but again, their system is slow. The reason is that one, they have the assurance whenever they are hiring for any of the project, they make sure that one that person is having the execution experience. They don't go straight for the 5 years engineer for giving them the project manager's job and then saying that one, can you execute that one for us? Okay, they take that one. The criteria was quite stringent. They were saying that one, that 15 years plus, any of the person should be considered as a principal engineer or for the senior engineer role. For project managers is also the same thing, and that person have done similar sort of a projects. That's not the first time he's doing it or she is doing it. Okay, so that's the criteria. It's Aramco is the same. They apply very stringent rules, and ADNOC is the same. Their rules are very much straightforward, quite longer durations, but again they apply in that manner. Coming back to giving the example and relate that one with Australia, if you're using or having in same set of environment, you need to take the initiative. Okay, rather than it will bite you towards the end, it will bite you really hard. You need to bite at yourself. Okay, you do it now rather than you do at a later stage. You need to just take what in terms of like was BHP using or Rio Tinto is using take 5 approach. So you step 5. Okay, 5 minutes. They call it 5 minutes, but again you can apply the similar sort of thing. You step back, think about it, what you're going to do, how you're going to do that one, and what will be the steps for it. What will be the steps for it, and how you're going to plan that one. Once all of these criteria are verified and you have the assurance plan available to execute that one, then you apply for it. So this is the way mature organizations usually do. But sometimes you have a time pressure, sometimes you have a pressure from the client. But again, at the end of the day, it should be a win-win situation. You need to have an agreement that you have identified all these risks upfront, that which you will take into account. These are the ones which is transferable. So you can transfer that one either to the supplier, to the vendor, to the subcontractor. You find that one even to the client also. Okay, or that you have a complete solid mitigation plan in your hand, that how you're going to execute, so that you are back in the game, rather than you say that when, oh, we will decide that on a bit later stage, because that stage is a bit later. Amjad, does that answer the question?
I think he disconnected.
I think, yeah, I'm just checking that one.
I just have a quick question, Sanway. Is the lesson learned is same as the PIR, which is the project implementation review?
No. So when you say project implementation review, that's a gate itself. Okay, you're reviewing that one exactly what you are going to implement or what you are going to execute. Okay, so these are set of information which is available before you go on site and you start working on that execution plan. Okay, that's the document you are talking about. Lesson learned is the document itself which can tell you where we planned it, okay, how we execute it. For example, for the engineering itself, you define that one, that engineering strategy, you apply that one in terms of your tender document. But when you execute that one, you discuss that one with the client. Either there is some scope changes to it, or you have some improvement plan in terms of doing that engineering change or engineering itself. So that's a lesson learned. That if for my next project, when I go having a similar sort of a scope of work, and I have this sort of a problem, how I have solved it, and what sort of a scenario I should be dealing with, and what sort of action I took. So that's how the whole lesson and exercise is about.
But I have seen a similar sort of analysis, what you're talking about, lesson learned, like some of the companies do this under project implementation review. After they've implemented, they just get together, review all what's gone good and what's not gone good, just to document that and keep it for the next one. So lubricant fee.
Yeah, so the document might be having a different name, but the way I read it, the way I understand is something like this. Is something like this, that in which you can define it and you can identify that. So lesson learned, more or less, you can do that one towards the end of the project. Some companies prefer to do that, okay, because they are, especially for the government companies, they try to do that one in that way, because they are having like a uniform workforce which are executing that one, or they have a consistent team. But for some of the companies like contractors or subcontractors, they are using that one for the different phases of the project. Might be the name is different. Maybe the philosophy is similar, or maybe they are using a different philosophy. But lesson learned usually is the exercise which can identify what you planned, what you actualize, what we learned from it.
And is this only an internal document, or it has to be internal? Because obviously you're analyzing a project for a company, and you're going for a B company. Obviously, that's something as a project manager, you're doing a similar role for a B company. You know what's going to happen because you're implementing the same scope. But is that something which should be kept internal, or can it be discussed in the next phase or in the next project? Is it something which legally you're bound to keep it, because you might have some documented information for a project related, and it might be confidential?
Sure. Knowledge can be shared, but not the information.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's the thing. So when you are doing that one within your company, you can share knowledge and information both. Okay. But when you're going to a new company, you cannot share the same information. Okay. You're legally bound to have that transparency only within your company which you are working with. Okay, whenever you are doing, you can, again, the way I shared that one for the PDU example, I shared that one with some of the other companies example, I share the knowledge with you, but I'm not giving you the right data. Okay.
Thank you.
I just got one question. How important is the industry knowledge for a successful execution of a project, or to be a successful project manager? Because a project manager could be maybe, as from your experience, you've worked from one industry, you've been in the oil and gas, you've been in the process, you are in the mining, you're in the infrastructure. How do you see the importance of understanding, like what happens in the mining is completely different to an oil and gas, and what happens in the infrastructure is different to oil, gas, and mining. From your experience, what do you think? How important is the knowledge of the work that's done in this industry to successfully execute a project and be a successful project manager?
Sure. So for the project manager itself, you need to have those tools and techniques available. So that can be applied that one to any of the industry. Okay, they are more or less the same. You can apply the same set of phases for any of the project. Is the only thing which change from industry to industry is the methodology, how you're going to execute it. Okay, but for the project manager, he or she need to understand that one, how the engineering is going to work, what sort of an engineering relationship having, or the interfaces having the relationship that one with the procurement, how the procurement should be executed on a certain time, so that it will be available just in time, so I don't have to pay for the storage cost. It will be linked that one to your execution. Execution should be started for the critical items first, so you need to identify that those critical items. Well, having said that one, being the project manager is you're wearing multiple hats. So regardless of which industry you're working on that one, you should be using the similar sort of interchangeable tools, and you're using the same philosophy as an overall. So whether you're using that for PMI, you're using for AIPM, which is Australian Institute of Project Management, you're using it, or some of the others you're using. So they are all more or less the same. They are saying the same thing, focusing on some of the areas more as compared to the other. But again, the philosophy is the same.
And one more question on top of that. Okay, so we see, and especially the people who've been in Middle East or have come from Middle East, like there was a few years back, there was like everyone was getting the PMP status, whereas like the project managers who I have come across in last 10 to 12 years, none of them even had a proper qualification in the project management, let alone a certification.
Sure.
Right. So again, from your experience, do you see the importance of these certifications in Australia, like having a PMP certification, or is it the trend in the market changing, as we have seen that like more companies are asking for the engineers to be a chartered engineer or registered on the National Engineering Register, things like that? Is that something's going to happen in the project management industry as well, or is awareness is coming to Australia where they're asking for formal qualifications for someone to be employed as a project manager?
Sure. For any of the project manager, if the person is having, for example, his postgraduate in project management, he can have maybe the having the qualification, but if he don't have the experience, he can apply that one to for his first project. But again, whatever he learned theoretically will be applying that one. Okay, so it should be a combination of both. And if I give the example for my last project, that superintendent started that one with the truck loader. Okay, he moved that from to different stages to welder, to some of the others being supervisor, and then now he's like after nearly about 35 years, he's the superintendent. Okay, he knows things far more better than the project manager itself. Okay, and sometimes project managers is solely dependent on him for his knowledge and his skills also. So Australia-wide, when you ask that, it depends upon the company you're working with. Okay, PMP, it's a trend. The way I see that one, again, you guys can differ with me, but again, I see that one as a trend. It can give you an overall understanding. If you are having 1 to 5 years of experience, it's good to have PMP. But anything which is after that one, you already have the knowledge for all of those which is being taught into PMP, and you're doing the exam. But if you are working in a consultancy, for example, GST or Jacobs or AECOM or some of the other companies, yeah, chartered is really well acknowledged, because that's how not only they make the money, but also it will give you the accountability and the authority in terms of implementing what you have learned through that process. Because any of the organization make you accountable for endorsing that drawing, because you are the chartered engineer. Okay, going back, for example, my qualification, for example, for the AIPM is for the project director, is a qualification in itself. If I don't have it, I can still execute those projects, but it will give you a title, it will give you a weightage, and then it will give you also the knowledge, which, for example, sometimes you are not in depth having the understanding of the cost management or risk management, and sometimes you are working at a high level, you understand exactly how the costs work, but you don't have the tools, techniques, and the methods available to execute that one. That's how you learn that one from these accreditations. Okay, so it's good to have in some of the cases, and in sometimes it's compulsory. With consultancy example, I'll give that to you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Yep, go ahead.
I have a question that when we are doing risk analysis for a project, then when we identify risk, do we like put in the steps to mitigate them as well?
Yes, so any of the risk document, risk register, I only touch base on that one, but there's a complete risk procedure for it. Okay, so you need to define that one, what will be the scope of work. You get that one from the project management document. For that scope of work, you need to define that how the risk will be conducted, or the workshop will be conducted. You need to define that what are the parameters for it, who will be participating into that one, and that what are the rules and regulations to conduct that risk workshop. And also you also have the information which is handy if you have that one for the benchmark. So that will be part of the procedure also. Who will be approving that one, who will be facilitating that one, who will be accepting the risk, who will be accountable for that risk, and as a total, how you're going to run the Monte Carlo analysis, how many iterations you will be running that one. If you're doing the sensitivity analysis in terms of cost and duration, what sensitivity limits you are having. You have an upper limit, you have the lower limit for it. And then once that one is done, you submit that one to or internal review. You do that one with the client also, and you come with the number of scenarios. For example, when you are running the risk workshops, you come up, for example, P10, P50, and the P80 or P90 schedules. You need to discuss that one as part of the discussion. You have that one with the client and with an internal also, and then you have the complete report towards the end. So these are the steps I'll talk about.
Okay, and is this the project manager's responsibility, or you mentioned like something as a risk engineer, or is it like a risk engineer something different, or is it the project manager's responsibility?
Project manager is accountable for it, that he or she need to make sure that when he or she have identified the risk, or at least maintain the risk register, and the risk engineer responsibility or the risk manager responsibility is to implement that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, guys. If you don't have any of the questions, we can close the session. But in the future, my plan is again to go through independently. So I need your feedback. You can submit that one to Minhaj or some of the other guys who coordinated that one. And thanks very much, like us, to Minhaj, to Amjad also, and the rest of the other guys, and for you also that you participated in that. So just submit your suggestions to it, that how it can be further improved and what you like to see that in the future, so we can plan the whole thing according to that.
Thank you, Aslam. It was pretty good.
All right,
thank you very much, Islam bhai.
Have a good one.
We'll work on the feedback and we'll get that back to you. And also, if you can please share the slides or just these.
To you, you can share that one then later on then.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Again, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.